I am Bor, god of boring.
I am Rob, god of Rob.
Wow. Especially because Rob backwards is Bor, so you could have had something much stronger.
I didn't think you were going to go with that.
The Sibling Rivalry. Already off to a great start.
Your family, your world will be extinguished.
Thor is back to fight evil in Thor the Dark World, the sequel to the big summer blockbuster several years ago. And what do we think of it?
Loved
Hated
it.
it. What the fuck? Really? Like, we've agreed on all these movies, it's called Sibling Rivalry, and we've always agreed on everything, and like, this is the one that's gonna guess to disagree.
Thor 2.
Thor 2 is gonna be the big disagreement.
You're punking me, right?
No, okay, but before we go into, like, the movie, I always say whenever we do a sequel or remake something, we gotta say what we thought of the original. I'll go first. The first Thor film I thought was okay. I think the stuff in Asgard is cool. Thor was cool.
I like your reinterpretation of history. You, like, kept begging me to see the damn film.
No,
it's good, it's good, it's really good.
No, the stuff in Asgard is really good. Anything, okay, for something that is as hard to bring to the screen as a Marvel character who wears a winged helmet, has a hammer that goes and is technically a god, but has only superhero powers and not god, but all this stuff, I thought was pretty damn well done. And to bring in, you know, whatever, Iron Man and all these Earth-based superheroes and then just throwing gods, the way they mix it in, I thought was pretty well done. The part where I sort of go, is when they go into the fish out of water story, like a lot of people, but...
Oh, so you mean the story?
Kind of. I mean, but even that stuff I thought was tolerable. For me, I like the guy. I like Chris Hemsworth. Is that his name? I like the guy who plays Thor. The villain Loki obviously grew on me over time. Now I look back at it, he's kind of fun. I like Hopkins. I love the design of Asgard. Everything else I thought was okay. But what held together for me is Asgard and the guy who played Thor.
I didn't like the first Thor that much.
Yeah, you're not alone. A lot of people didn't like it.
You like, and I love this reinterpretation, but you were way more gung-ho about the movie, and we're like, oh yeah, see, the Asgard stuff, it's amazing!
No, go back. I did a review of this years ago, and you can see, I'm like, no, it's good.
I don't care what you said in the review. In your phone conversations with me, it was a different story.
If I said that, I'm talking about Asgard. I'm talking about anything in Asgard. Because anything in Asgard was cool.
Plus, you do have a bit of a thing for Kenneth Branagh. Come on. You're like, Kenneth Branagh directed it! Oh my god!
No.
So,
Hey, did you see the preview for his next movie?
I did actually. It
Doesn't that look
yeah.
hilarious? Well, excuse me. Kenneth Branagh, his hamminess makes me cough. No,
Kenneth Branagh sensed you were going to say something bad about
it. No, I have a love-hate relationship with Kenneth Branagh. I think he does some unbelievable stuff. I love his Hamlet. You know, I love a lot of stuff he's done, but he's also very hammy, so it's sort of that balance. And like I said, for something like the first Thor that should have been terrible by all definitions, I thought it was okay.
I will give you this. It should have been god-awful, and instead it was just bad. And I will give you this, that probably the parts I liked the most were playing to Kenneth Branagh's strengths. All of the Asgard stuff I loved. Mostly because it was so ridiculous, yet so fake Shakespearean, you know, you
but it was
just,
awesome!
Yeah, it was. And that being said, I honestly thought Loki was okay.
He gets better as the movies go on.
Yeah, he's become one of those, like, scene stealers where every new movie he's in, he just gets better and better. I thought he was weakest in Thor. Better in Avengers, and I actually liked him best in this movie, but, you know, and I like Anthony Hopkins, you know, who's just obviously there doing whatever he wants to collect a paycheck, and, you know...
But doing it well.
Yeah, I mean, the Asgard stuff was fine. Everything else in that movie, the second he lands on Earth, it was like movie done for me. And
you didn't like him. You didn't like the guy who played Thor in this environment.
I like...
okay. I forget the environment. Him.
I like him. He can't carry a movie alone when you surround him with a complete lack of talent, like... What's-her-face from Two Broke Girls and Natalie Portman.
Okay, let's get into this then, because that's... I think here's where we're going to kind of disagree. So we got the second movie, which should, by my definition, be better, because much more of it is in Asgard and in different places. You're seeing Thor do Thor stuff. And if anything, it switched around where Natalie Portman goes to Asgard, and now she's kind of like the fish out of water. They don't dwell on that too much. Kind of, thank God.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Okay, so rather than having a movie that has some really cool, unbelievable stuff, and then you sort of had to sit through, just sort of fish out of water stuff, this one to me was on a constant meh level. You have the most generic villain you've seen, totally forgettable. You have the comic relief, I swear, has gotten worse, even though they get less screen time.
Did you just call a former Doctor Who forgettable?
Is that really? Was he a Doctor Who?
I'm pretty sure that was Chris Eccleston.
He was underused, if that's it, because
I actually give you that. I think he's awesome. Completely wasted in this movie.
Completely wasted. He has nothing to work with.
Yeah.
The comic relief somehow has gotten even more annoying, even though they have less screen time. I don't know how they did that, but that's going on. Every action scene in here is seen in every other action movie. The plot. Bad guy wants to take over the world. People have to stop them. That's it. The Dark World is the most generic, forgettable Dark World. Thor, at least in the first film, is going through a change. He's going through an arc. He goes through no change here. So to me, it's kind of like the guy who played. To me, it's kind of like the guy who played Superman in Man of Steel. It's like, okay, well, for a guy who has nothing to work with, he's doing okay, but he has nothing to work with. The only things for me that were cool, you see more of Asgard, but you saw in the first one, it's not as impressive as the first one. The only things that were cool to me was when Loki was in there, which you find out he's not in it very much, and the parents, Anthony Hopkins and Rene Russo, I thought did very good. But I think that's because they're three really good actors, and they know how to save scenes, and that's what this movie needs. It needs these scenes saved. Everything else is phoned in, boring, and did nothing for me. I'm not saying it's god-awful. I'm just saying I've seen this a million times and it bored the shit out of me.
All I could say when you kept telling me that was, you kept going on, I was like, well, the comic relief is, I'm like, did you see the first movie? Yeah, but it's just sort of meh. Did you see the first? It's like, these are, with the exception of the Dark World portion and the villain being especially weak instead of just weak, I'm like, this is like an exact description of the first film.
Well, because we talked on the phone before, and when you mentioned that, I did sort of go, yeah, that's true. Why am I more angry at this? And what I figured out is that I really do think it's the fact that the main character, when it cuts to the comic relief, when it cuts to the villain, it is only the comic relief and only the villain doing their incredibly annoying stuff. At least in the first film, Thor is with the annoying comic relief, so he can sort of balance that out. In Asgard, the villain is in Asgard, and you can enjoy the scenery, you can enjoy the cinematography. Here, when it's the comic relief, they're awful. When it's the villain, he's awful. And
yeah, but
when it's Natalie Portman, she's awful. No, but what I think I notice it more when it cuts to them, and rather than just have, like, okay, well, I don't like these side characters, but at least we have the main character. It's like, no, it's only this unfunny comic relief, and only this really uninteresting villain, and only this not very fascinating world.
Does it suck that we have to watch Natalie Portman attempt to collect a paycheck by acting? Yes! But it's only for, like, and particularly the cadre of friends, including Skarsgård, who is a great actor, again, completely underused in this film. He's like, he gets to take his pants off.
I think he's worse in this. I think they actually made him worse. In the first film, at least he was trying. In Avengers, he did more.
In theory, he can be worse, but again, there's less of them. Like, when I look at all the problems of the first film...
But it's so painful. It's like, okay, what would you want? Just someone sort of lightly hitting you like this for a long time, or just like one quick boom to the nuts? It's like, well, there's only one of those, but dude, I'd much rather just have this.
Yeah, but see, here's the problem. You started here and then made the alternative to kick the nuts.
That's what it's like.
If you went a couple of really hard just punches to the shoulder versus this for an hour, I'd be like, just give me the couple of hard punches to the shoulder.
Maybe it's not a good analogy.
No, because you went for the nuclear bomb.
But that's the comic relief. They are the nuclear bomb. They are so horrible in
terrible,
this.
but they were terrible in the first movie.
I swear they're worse here.
Any time I had to spend with Thor wandering around with Princess Padme and that trollop from Two Broke Girls. I'm sorry, Queen Padme Amidala. I will not discuss this in front of a committee. Any time I had to spend with those two wandering around in the desert in the first film, I swear to God, I was like looking at my wrist going, is there something sharp here? Can I slit them? Can I just do it?
Okay, well, but you didn't think he helped out, the guy playing Thor, that he helped out.
He helps out in as much as that I'm like, he's mildly, he's passable enough that I'm like, maybe I'm mildly curious where they're going with him, but it was just a fish out of water story, which... It's Thor. I don't want to see a fish out of water story with Thor. I don't mind fish out of water stories if they're interesting, but there was nothing interesting going on there, and I'm supposed to believe, twice now, because that was the one weak thing I thought in this film, that the woman he so wants to stay on Earth for, give up his throne, is Natalie Portman.
Oh, did you like at the end, by the way, when, like, after all the action is done and everything, this movie cares so little, it doesn't even show the goodbye. It just shows him eating breakfast, like, so, he left? Yeah, it's like, it cares that little.
See, I liked that, because I'm like, yay, less having to deal with their romance.
But should we put up with mediocrity all the way through, or, hey, some really good moments and some really low moments? I mean,
I'm sorry, their romance has been one giant low moment, so the less you dwell on that, the better.
Well, what you brought up, you said that he actually did go through
He does go through a story arc. The whole thing is about him trying to decide between living on Asgard or her.
How'd that go again?
Her. I'm sorry, I don't get it. You could have gone with any actress, and I'm sure Natalie Portman is a fine woman in person.
She can be very funny.
She can be very funny. She's funny in SNL, but it's like if you put her in the wrong movie, it's just like, I don't know if she doesn't care, if she's James Francoing it, like it just is she punking
another talented
us?
actor who clearly just doesn't care.
It's
in
like
some
I've
movies.
seen her act. She can do it, but I don't know if she's just like maybe she's collecting a paycheck. I don't know. Did not work in Thor. So yeah, that was his big thing. Does he go with Asgard or her? And does he accept the throne? Does he reject it? And him trying to come to terms with Loki, the relationship they have with their mother. There actually is a lot going on in this film with regards to him. Now, the problem, which you pointed out, is the fact that since the romance sucks, you're kind of like, am I this invested in whether he's going to go with her or not? Because we know he is, and we don't care. But
I guess maybe there was much more of
less.
I guess in the first one, again, even though we know what's gonna happen, we know he's gonna, lighten up and not be such a jerk and be more heartfelt and stuff like that. But the transition through it, maybe because we do know, because we've seen people like that, I mean, people that are just spoiled jerks and spoiled brats, that the transition actually seemed a little bit more believable. I liked him talking about Asgard. I liked him talking about how things work and them learning off each other. Here, I mean, it's like, well, am I gonna go with her? I guess I should. It's like, that's the dilemma. And then the best part, you brought for a moment the part with Loki, him coming to grips with Loki. If the movie was about that and his struggle with that, that would have been wonderful.
It should have been. And I am kind of torn on the film because I admit there are problems, but so many of the problems that I had with the first film were kind of fixed. The things I didn't like, they're just like, we'll just put those over here.
They should have got rid of them altogether.
I don't disagree, but then I guess it would be like, well, what was the point of the first film? Because he's pining over Natalie Portman, and now all of a sudden he's like...
But I mean, you could have had more Loki. You could have had a better villain. You could have had an unbelievable looking Dark World.
What, you mean Nosferatu in a George Washington wig didn't cut it for you? That's what he looked like to me.
Oh, it's much better. I wish you were there for the bum review. That's better than Nero from Star Trek. But okay, so...
I mean, all I can say is this. My issues with the first film were too much of Natalie Portman and her friends, too much of that romance, too much not spent in Asgard. All of those, yeah, there's still annoyances when the friends show up. They're all sidelined, though. I'm like, I don't have to deal with them half as much. It's like they figured out that, you know what? A lot of people just aren't going to give a shit about them. So chuck them over here. We'll bring them back. Good question. I don't know. Because for continuity's sake, I guess. But the thing is,
continuity. Half of the plot holes in here don't make sense. I mean, how did?
But are you blaming the movie? But are you blaming the movie for sidelining something that sucked in the first one anyway? And you're like, well, why not have them all together? I agree, but to say that this one's worse when at least you chucked them to the side.
But the stuff, like I said, the stuff they got so well in the first one, I think they got so well. There was a scene in the middle of the credits, which is now just, I would pay the money just to see the scene in the middle of the credits, honestly, because there's more creativity and more mystery and more good writing and more anticipation in those 5 minutes than there is in all of the rest of the movie. Why couldn't those creative things that you saw in the background, why couldn't that energy be put into Asgard or the Dark World or anything else?
Because it's Thor 2.
That, you know, I don't know, maybe say right there, because both these movies...
I guess my bar was set low by the first film, that I'm like, oh, this one's way more fun, okay.
Both these movies, I think we can both agree, both these films seem to exist only to be filler until the next Avengers. How well it does...
I'm sorry,
is for debate.
But... You just figured this out? This has been Marvel's MO now for at least a good 5 years.
You could do it better. I mean, both these, I guess for me, the first one did some parts so much better, and in this one, it's just nothing seemed...
How many great Marvel movies have there been building up to the Avengers outside of Iron Man?
Well, Captain America wasn't bad.
Captain America, I think, was pretty good. That's the closest. That's the first one that pops in my head. But I mean...
Actually, how many others are there? Yeah, Hulk wasn't that great.
You got Hulk, you got the Iron Man sequels.
I mean, Thor's okay. Yeah, the Iron Man sequels. Okay, there's
Thor.
A good
I didn't think was that good.
Okay. Here's just not as much for you, but I mean, like for just other people in general talking about this movie, because I've seen 2 movies now I thought were decent movies. You know, I saw Ender's Game, I saw Iron Man 3. I think Ender Game's a lot better, but. People bring out all these problems, and they're legit problems. I'm not going to be like, you know, oh, come on. No, I see what they're talking about. But then this comes along, just purely, no bullshitting, just straightforward, we are just coasting this through. And everyone's like, oh, God, was that so much better? Was that... I mean... Is it just that...
That's because the first one was just a long dip where you got stuck.
The first one was so not what so many people wanted to see that...
Some of it was, but the rest was so crappy that
I guess that's it, because the one thing I will say about this, in a sense I kind of feel bad panning it as much as I can, because I'll acknowledge that if you're looking for just... If you're going like, I just want to see more of Asgard, more Thor kicking stuff, hitting stuff, and something of some substance.
Imagine this. What would
Loki. It's almost passable in my opinion.
What would you have said had this film come out first? Had you rewritten in such a way where Natalie Portman had not met Thor yet, this is the first movie, and she gets sucked into Asgard? What would you say about this film then?
I mean, it's something you gotta take into account, like Loki, and say you have to remember this. But I know what you're saying. If this came first, doing all of this stuff, I might have liked it. In fact, I probably would have liked it a little.
Because I understand what you're saying. We both agree that there is a sense of sameness, that since Lord of the Rings and a lot of these films have come out, the CGI, you know, world.
Yeah, the backstory. Tell me you don't want to hear, and then Smaug came in.
Oh, no. That backstory with the Dark Elves at the beginning, I was like, where's Sauron smashing them all?
Yeah.
And that part was weak. So we agree there is a sameness, but... My thing is, yes, it does feel similar to the first film. You're like, well, I kind of saw some of this in the first film. Do we punish this film, though, for doing a lot of it better? Because you saw a lot of it in the first film.
I don't know if it is better. I still think Asgard I think Asgard does look better in the first movie. And that is, like, even when they take the helmets off, in the first one they did it, they felt heavy. Here, I mean, I think they took it just... I mean, you can almost see them wiggle. I mean,
Asgard in the first one felt like an opera set, which is cool. This one felt like a world, though, that I could live in. I'm like, I see people, I see places,
There's some truth to that. Maybe in the sense of it not being as
the first one was
impressive.
The first one was a Kenneth Branagh Shakespearean drama. You had a set cast of like 10 people all on the same large set, and I never got an idea of how Asgard looked outside of that. Which is death in comic books to me. You kind of want to see the world.
I mean, that is kind of a good point.
And it was a good production design in the first film.
That was sort of my issue with, like, the Fellowship and Hobbit, those two. It's like, I like the Hobbit because I felt like, oh, I can actually breathe in this world. And
now, don't start that again. We'll go off on...
No, but there is kind of truth to that you can actually, to this film's credit, because it's not trying to show off as much, and there's some nice cinematography, but because it's not trying to show off as much, you can sort of breathe a little bit more.
There are simple shots. Like, I love that they're all training outside, and, like, you see all the waterfalls in the background. I was like, this is a really immersive world.
Yeah.
I actually appreciated it a lot more in this film than I did in the first. And I liked the production design on the first, but, you know, I think that's part of it. I think you're like, throwing so much of your scorn on the fact that you may have seen some of this before.
Well, more...
This film, like, the scene... I mean, are we doing spoiler corner here, or are we...
we'll do it at the end. We'll do another video.
You know, there's some major scenes in the middle of this movie that I thought were really emotionally affecting. My one gripe is that they never dwelled on it long enough because there was so much rushed.
I know what you're talking about, and again, we'll get to it, but I wish they did. I
really good scenes, straight out of a comic book, gorgeously filmed, gorgeously shot, very well acted. I'm sorry, I got 0 out of the first one that was anywhere close to that. There was no scene in the first one emotionally affecting for me.
See, to me, this was like, it almost got emotionally effective. You know, like it almost hit there. And
versus the first one that didn't even try.
And there's some... But the first film wasn't supposed to. I think the first one was supposed to be set up, and it was a good setup. It was supposed to be large and grand, and then you go to the fish out of water story.
You have a story about 2 brothers, one adopted, like one not, and about how they end up being at each other's throats, and about a possible overthrow, and isn't meant to be emotionally affecting somehow?
Well, no, it's for a fish out of water story, which is still what it has to be. I think it did okay, like I said.
See, to me, this one
was supposed to, I guess this one was trying to be bigger, and
this one had a pretty decent mix. I thought when it needed to be funny, yeah, Natalie Portman and Friends, that needs to be a sitcom. Natalie Portman and Friends.
No, it's not. It's called Two Broke Girls. Don't do it.
It's Two Broke Girls. Special guest star Natalie Portman. You know, most of their stuff kind of was sucky, but when they brought them in at the end for the portal stuff, where they have like this... The finale features lots of gravitational
The finale was kind of clever.
The kind of stuff that I wish Man of Steel had done. I was like, had Man of Steel gotten this clever with all of these anomalies and gravity stuff, I may have liked that finale a lot better. Instead of just dudes punching each other into buildings. But this one, I was like, this is fun.
Well, we should establish right now, by the way, just that this... And we both agree, this movie has a ton of plot holes. I mean, just a ton of things that don't make sense. We might talk about it in Spoiler Corner, but I mean, we're not going to dwell on comic book movie. You know, we don't dwell on in Dark Knight and stuff like that.
It's my argument is the bar that high.
Yeah, if you're not, my argument is if you're not paying attention to the characters and you're noticing that more, then it's not doing its job. So that's what I'm going to keep it doing. I'm going to keep it to the characters.
For me, there was the comedy, you know, particularly with Loki and Thor, was good. The emotional drive between those two and between Odin and Frigga, it was good. You know,
again, those are the 4 things I like.
But it was a healthy mix of just like, it reminds me of like when we're watching Sleepy Hollow, where it's like, it's so goofy and at the same time you do feel an investment. Yeah. So, to me, I would prefer that healthy mix of like entertaining but with problems over the first one, which I didn't have any investment in, and the few parts that were trying to be funny was just sort of fish out of water stuff, and it...
I did have investment in Thor in the first film, and I think a lot of that actually is the actor and the fact that he had to go.
I think he's great, but to me, the way the characters are in, it's like, oh, he went from grade A douchebag to just douchebag. Good job.
But still, but still, sort of an extreme. Where here, I think he is so middle of the road. I mean, everything's so middle of the road. So I guess the thing that really comes down to is that if you're looking for something that's, I think even when you saw it, you're like, you know, like it's passable, it's sustainable, you know, just some fun action. Wow,
it was entertaining.
Yeah, just some
basic I'll take entertaining over sucks. You know, I'll take passably entertaining over 50% of this movie just annoyed the hell out of me like any day.
So, and yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I'd much rather see the stuff that's really like, wow, isn't that incredible? Oh, I gotta sit through this. I guess for me, like I said, I think I just had more investment with or maybe either his performance or the way he's written, I don't know, but in the first film, and that's what pulled me through that one. It got me through the annoyance. Now I'm curious to see the first film again to see if that comic relief really is as annoying.
All I remember is the first time I watched the film, whenever they left Asgard or when Thor gets kicked out, I just like 5 minutes into the desert there, I'm just like, can we go back to the first movie I was watching?
I mean, I agree, but I'm curious. Now I'm curious to see which comic relief annoyed me more, the ones in the first film or the one that's like, because the first one...
Don't get me wrong, they're annoying in this film. I think, and when they cut away, it is very painful, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, that was 5 minutes of excruciating pain versus, like, one long paper cut in the first movie that's like, it's not excruciating, but it's still annoying.
Yeah, see, for me, this was the paper cut, so it's... I think it just varies then. It just varies on what your tolerance is. It is kind of sad we're just sort of measuring out varying levels of tolerance. But we both like a movie and don't like a movie.
Well, we'll say this. This is the state of comic book movies right now. We're kind of oversaturated. You know, and it's been this way, I think, since around Spider-Man, X-Men. It's like comic book movies got big again, and Dark Knight also kicked it back into gear, so now it's just like, we need to churn out as many comic book movies as possible.
Hugh Jackman has 2 Wolverine movies coming out, Days of Future, after he just got done with this other one, Days of Future Past, another Wolverine scene.
And I've gotten some flack, because people were just like, oh, you just don't like comic book movies anymore. What's going on? It's like all critics just don't like comic book movies. It's like, no, it's like
they're doing great as far as I know.
Yeah, they're doing great at the box office. The thing is, you come out with like 100 comic book movies, all movies that come out every year, 50% are gonna be
Yeah, I mean, these
25% are gonna be sucks, and 25% are gonna be really good, and comic book movies are no different. You have this many comic book movies, 50% are gonna be like Thor, or like Iron Man 3 or something, and you're gonna be like, it's alright, you know, 25% are gonna be your Dark Knights, and you're like, that's awesome, you know, and then you're gonna have your 25% that are gonna be like Ghost Rider, and you're gonna be like...
Well, and to these movies' credit, I mean, I think maybe another reason some people give them a pass, and even to me, I'll give them a little bit of a pass too, is that you know it's building up to Avengers 2. Now, if that sucks, there's gonna be no forgiving. Everyone's gonna be like, what the hell?
They're building up to the Infinity War. I can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously building that up. I am
so a fan of that whole story arc, so...
Yeah, so I mean, that's gonna be... Again, I think you give it a little bit of a leeway, and Marvel is just... And even though I think this film is not so hot, I think what Marvel has done, just not only as a business, but as this... It has turned movies, or at least their world, into a comic book. Like these continuing
It does
stories,
make me realize how much
interesting.
it's just like, DC, you're drunk, go home. Like, they were so late to the game on this. Like, I think they were so just banking on, Batman, Superman, Batman, Superman, Batman, Superman, Batman.
Wait. Together! Yeah, we have 5 of our superheroes in a movie over there.
Yeah, we did that like 2 years ago, sorry. But
Marvel's on fire. As soon as I saw
figured it out.
As soon as I saw Robert Downey Jr. appear at the end of that Edward Norton Hulk movie, I'm like, oh my god, like, are they really doing it? If they do this well, like, this could be on fire, and it really is right now. If Avengers didn't do well, that was a bad movie. I think this could have all been dead in the water, but because it was so much fun, it was so good.
And I don't want to diss DC too much, because I'm actually hopeful that something will come of like a Justice League movie.
Or Batman, Superman.
They were never my favorite. I'm always a Marvel person, but I do have some respect for Justice League. So, and I actually am way more interested in that than seeing a Batman, Superman movie. I'm just like, I feel like in the cartoons and stuff between the old Warner Brothers animated back in the 90s, like, I've seen like the world's finest concept 1,000. It's just like, a Justice League movie though, like, I'm all over that if they can pull it off.
I love to see.
I'm kind of hopeful, but so far it's been rocky with Man of Steel, and we'll see how this goes with Ben Affleck Batman.
I love to see a good Wonder Woman movie, because for years people are like, no, you can't do it. No, it's like they're like, you can't do it, and I'm like, I can see why, because it does seem too silly, but you know, with more than
that seems silly.
With what technology could do. Now, with the mythos, with Lord of the Rings, with all this stuff, I mean, you can make this grand world that she could come from, and you can make her really badass. That trailer got like a bajillion hits on YouTube, the fake Wonder Woman trailer. I mean, it's like, I think they could do it now. It could be really
We have
unbelievable.
a blonde dude with a giant hammer wandering around
No,
with
but I
Loki
would've said-
and
No,
in
I
the
would've said the
desert
same
with
thing years
Queen
ago.
Amidala, but Wonder Woman, that's too
No, I would have said that years ago.
I'm
I
not,
would've
I'm
said the
not
same
blaming
thing.
you.
Now
It's
they
just
can
a
do
common
it.
argument. And I'm like, why is Wonder Woman always held to this double standard?
Well, now it's not.
Well, it's too silly. You can't. It still is. I still see, like, don't you think Warner Brothers executives right now are going, oh, come on, like, no, there's no way. And I'm like, look at the fucking ridiculous films we have out now.
We need the boy audience, and we know what they're watching now, right? My Little Pony, clearly very tough mascots. I mean, it's like,
We
yeah,
need to appeal to the My Little Pony audience, therefore we're going to give them a
Adventure
dark and
Time.
gritty Superman.
Yeah, Adventure Time has very feminine elements too. I mean, it's like, yeah, why? There's no reason not to, in my opinion. And we can get a good Justice League going too, so...
Teenage boys don't want to see a hot chick kicking ass in a leotard. What the hell could they want to see?
Slaughtering monsters
dudes in rubber.
with big pecs. That's what growing boys want to see.
mopey. They want to see their
It's
dad
sweaty.
sacrifice themselves to a tornado.
We need Zack Snyder for this. We need everything to look like man parts.
We don't need to pick on Man of Steel. We'll get into that
we're
in a
inside
week,
to it. So, okay, so bottom line,
decent, for me, decent ideas, fun ideas. Okay, I complained about the comic relief. I actually enjoyed the haunted house sequence in Britain, like straight out of that little Matrix short with all the anomalies where they're throwing like the...
But I saw it in the Matrix short.
Okay, but...
Except they didn't have the annoying comic relief. Okay, I'm sorry, we're getting...
I saw most of this shit in the comic book, so... I didn't even like Thor that much, and I still remember half of it. Like... But... yeah, like, I thought the concepts were cool. The portal ending was a lot of fun. Villain comic relief week, but there was less of them. Loki, who you could always argue is the real villain, although there's less of him in this one, was way more fun in this than I thought in the first film. So it just was an entertaining ride. It was a real Marvel comic book movie. If you just want to be entertained, turn your brain off. Yeah, there are better out there, but there are far worse, and I'm just like, you know what? I blew 2 hours, I had a good time.
I think that's surprising. Kind of on the same boat. It's kind of like for me, if you like the first one, you probably won't like the second one. If you didn't like the first one, you'll like the second one. I think it's better
than the first.
I think it's a fair analysis. Like I said, for me, I think there's some moments that are so great in the first one and then so tiring, and this one was sort of middle of the road. But some people are fine. Some people are like, hey, just like you said, just some fun entertainment. Just go see them hit some stuff, some nice visuals, and, that's it. So, and sometimes I like that too. I like Transformers. I like the first movie. So I'm going to like my,
Honestly,
very
I
low
like
standards
this film
as well.
better than Transformers.
Yeah, and a lot of people will be like, well, why? There's more character in this and stuff. Wouldn't it make sense? I'm like, yeah, but...
But it doesn't have...
For the low bar, they already
It doesn't have the beef going, no.
So, yeah, just take that for what it's worth. You can probably sort of figure out if this is what you want to see or not see. And, yeah.
Don't listen to him. Go see it. It's a good time.
It sucks.
Bullshit. He's bullshit. You're bullshit.